those areas, okay? So if you have been impacted by moisture in your apartment, the blue team has come in and removed some of the impacted stuff, but they just kind of put plastic back on the wall. They didn't replace the drywall yet. And the reason for that is that they still have to get the approval from the insurance carrier and the county to go back and do the reconstruction work, okay, what they call reconstruction. So they worked through the mitigation process. They wanted to remove all the stuff that was contaminated, impacted, wet, whatever it might be, get it out of there and clean it and leave it as neat as possible for you. But they won't be able to come back and do the final piece until they get the approvals from both the insurance and the county. So as we went through that, they decided they would ask for forgiveness later on some of those areas that we asked them to, watch the cord there, sorry. Yeah. So we asked them to go back and replace the drywall in those areas that we wanted our construction vendor to be back in and working. And so they did that, and they'll be asking for forgiveness from the insurance carrier later. It wasn't a lot of areas, but we really wanted to get them back in working again as quick as possible. So they agreed to do that, and they were able to get that completed for us, and that is why we're at the point now to get Laniat back in here. So no further updates as far as the construction goes. We're going to get Laniat back in. They're going to redo their schedule of how many weeks they're going to spend in each area. We'll get a new schedule out to you all as far as like when they're going to work through things like, you want to get by here? Yeah, come on by. I'll let you walk right in front of me. Everybody wave at Sissy. Hi, everybody. Sissy, hello. Anyway, so we'll work through the actual schedule, and we'll get that schedule back out to you all, and I'll give you an update via memo and via our meeting here of when and how long they're going to be in each floor and working through each of the locations. But I don't have that currently until they get back in here and start working. There are a couple of things that they are going to address. We've talked a lot about the lighting in the 5th and 4th floors, and I've heard, mixed feedback. Some, it's, really great to see some of the new bright lights. Others, it's a little too bright. And so we are addressing that. They're going to go through, they're going to take out, they're going to actually just unwire every other light to start. We're going to get a little paint on the wall, kind of check it out, see how it looks. And as long as that still works a little bit better, we'll move those down to the other floors then consistently. So that'll hopefully keep it bright and new and fresh feeling, but not so bright. Somebody told me they felt like it was an operating room. So definitely have a lot of light in there, and a little different than where we started from here in the East Building. So otherwise, we still have some of the areas that are closed off right now. Obviously, the library, the bar area, the game room, which here's our wonderful game room right now. And we'll continue to work through this. When it comes down to the dining room, we will have alternate dining set up for how we're going to work through that phased approach of taking the dining room down and working through the renovations there. So we're working on that with the construction vendor as well for timing and making sure that we can still have dining available to you all. Otherwise, a couple of other updates I have. There's some questions about the R-Wing elevator still not functioning. So that is a priority for us. It was some damage that occurred during the storm, and it's some parts, being told some parts that have been on order with our vendor. They're working as quick as possible to get those parts and bring it in and install them. We don't have an anticipated date yet on that elevator to get that back up and running. It's that elevator here and one of the elevators over in our Gables West building as well, also impacted. And then we also know that there's some issues with some fire doors here in the building where they're not staying open, how they're supposed to magnet open, and then they only release when the fire alarm goes off. Unfortunately, that also is a parts issue. It's a panel, I'm being told, a panel that short circuit or something happened to that panel. And so those, also the fire company is supposed to be out. I think they said by next week they're going to be here with those parts. And then we'll be able to get that installed and back up and running hopefully as quick as possible. That will keep those doors open so you can get in and out of those areas without having to push through those doors. So I really just want to open up to questions. Anything going on that I can address here, whether it be hurricane or blue team related or construction renovation related. Yes?
I have fire doors blocking that wing. G wing and the other wing don't have fire doors.
I think the fire doors might be further down the corridor. Is that, yeah, so I think, so the question was, it looks like maybe just the L wing has the fire doors blocking that wing. And I think the L wing fire doors are close to that elevator, the main elevator right here. But when you get to the G and the R wing, it's further down. So you have to go about, I don't know, it's about maybe a quarter of the way or an eighth of the way down the hall, and then you'll see the fire doors on those wings. So it's just further. I think it's where the apartments start. The only difference is on the R wing, those RC apartments, I think, are before the fire doors. Is that a fair assessment for those folks that live? Okay. So I think that's, it's just a difference of where they're located, but there are fire doors there. And I remember that because during Hurricane Irma, I drilled those doors shut with one of our maintenance guys, for those of you that were with us, and had to be away from a restroom for many, many, many hours. That was a fun hurricane for sure. So, not. Yes?
Do you know whether the library is going to be the very last thing done, or it's going to be done at the floor?
So the question is the library going to be the very last thing done or not? It should be done in the same timing as they do the 5th floor. So it should be completed in that same time frame. I know they are working on refinishing some shelves up there, some of those solid wood shelves. They're going to be working on refinishing those. And then also adding with the new wood shelving that goes in. So it'll all be solid wood shelving that goes back in there.
Also, do you know if the books are safe wherever they are?
So are the books safe wherever they are? Great question. I have not reviewed the books myself. I have not personally looked at those books, but I have not been told. Oh, yes, Brent, yes.
They're all in one room. It's in a closed room, and they're all safe.
All right, there we go. So books are good. That's safe. Yeah, thank you, Brent. Appreciate that. All right. Yes.
What's the timetable to do on the lines and the ceiling in our kitchen?
Sure. So the question is, what's the time frame for completing the lanais and in his apartment, the ceiling and the kitchen? So the lanais, I know, are going to be tied up in the permitting process with the county, as well as the insurance carrier. So I think it's either today or Monday. They have engineers and architects that are getting involved in sort of the reconstruction of the lanais as far as how it's going to be reconstructed. And I heard this morning, kind of interesting, hello everybody, wave to Lucy and Steve now.
Lucy!
It's a train. Uh-oh, there we got it. Oh, that's bacon. You can leave that with me here if you want. So the architect actually that they have hired, that the Blue Team has hired to come back and do some of the rework, is actually the original architect that worked on these buildings here. So that was pretty impressive,
wow.
35 years ago in the architecture work. So they know the buildings really well. They know the layout and the drawings. So they're working on things like lanai, window, the trusses up in the L wing there where we had damaged roofs and some of the roofing and things like that. So they'll be working through that. We don't have a specific time frame yet because the big kicker on this is going to be the county permitting, and we don't know how long the county permitting is going to take. The Blue Team is ready to take action as soon as they get the green light to move forward and do it. They will be working on making sure they have all the right supplies and materials and stuff like that. They have plenty of labor, as y'all have seen. They, showed up here in full force, and they remained here through the work, and will continue to have those workers available as we move forward with the reconstruction. As far as in your apartment, the ceiling work or flooring work, things like that. So what the Blue Team has worked on so far, all the things that they could tackle without having to move a resident out of the apartment permanently for a period of time. If there's something still in your apartment, like a ceiling or something like that you think should have been addressed and wasn't addressed, please reach out to me, and I'll make note of your apartment, Charlie. But please reach out to me or Pat or Angela to have the Blue Team circle back and look. Because
Everyone say hi to Blue Team.
There's the Blue Team right there. Yeah, hello. So we've now had not only the Blue Team's assessment and what they felt was wet and needed to be removed, but then the insurance carrier came back and rechecked all of that work as well. and either validated it and said, yes, do it, or they've added some in some areas, and other areas they had to have some conversations about doing. So there were some updates, and that's probably why some of you may have had multiple people in your apartments checking things with those little moisture meters and doing work, and they might have actually come in and done some work and then come back and had done some more work. And that's just from that process of the blue team and the insurance carrier trying to agree upon what needed to come out and be put back. But I'll make a note of your apartment and just make sure. I've had a couple of conversations with folks where they've said, I think there's some more moisture that maybe they missed, and so I want to make sure that the blue team gets all of that out of your apartment. They use these little moisture meters and they check all these areas, but we want to make sure they've gotten everything that was impacted. Yes?
Brian, 2 nights ago we had very heavy rain, and I was sitting and looking up at the cathedral ceiling, and I noticed a spot that had been there for some time, and I wasn't happy with it, and they came back yesterday, and they tried to fix it, the joist all the way to the porch. Found out that those 2 guys gone by, no, they had to redo the whole joist today. They came in with scaffolding this morning, that's why I'm here, I can't go home. And anyway, I don't know if it happened to anybody else.
Sure. So, well, first I'm disappointed. I thought you came just to see me today, Jill. No, so the comment was she had some, with the recent rains, she had some additional damage in her apartment, wondering if anybody else may have had any additional. I know the blue team worked hard on drying in all of the roofing structures, but that's not to say that we didn't have additional leaks. So did anybody else notice anything with the heavy rains that came through in the last couple of days here? I think it was 2 days ago or so. Yeah, you all had some? Okay. So I'll make sure that the blue team gets back up there, especially like the higher floors for sure because of the roofs and stuff. If there was damage up there, they have that poly sheeting that goes over it, and they've tried to dry it in. So the big roof won't get completed until the county releases the permitting on that. So what they did was try to dry that in, and the roofers keep coming back to fix any issues that might be there just to make sure it's dry for now. And then they'll come back and do the final roofing repair once the permitting is done. Sure, yep. And we'll make sure that gets resolved. But thank you for sharing, and I'll make sure they come up and take a look at your unit. It sounds like they're working in there hopefully today. Okay, all right, thank you.
What about carpeting?
So carpeting and flooring. We have 2 issues with carpeting and flooring. So carpeting that got wet depends on how wet and how much it stayed and how quick they were able to dry it. So most instances, they'll probably have to take out all of the padding, replace some padding. They might have to take out some carpeting. Some of it they can clean, some of it they have to replace. So they've got a listing of all the apartments where they're going to have to take out carpeting, and they're working through those right now with us currently. And then we also have challenges with folks that may have had like a laminate floor, because if that got wet, it can start to buckle, and then we've got all kinds of challenges with the flooring that is not level. And so they've been working through those as well. A couple of pieces with that is if they have to replace it, they're working on what they're going to replace it with. So having those options for the resident to pick. And so they're going to work through that as far as different colors and different samples and stuff like that. They're going to make sure they get all of that on hand and have it here ready to go, so that we don't have to move you, take the stuff out, put you back in, and then move you again to have them put the new flooring in. So we want to do it all in within a couple of days. Take it all out, put it all back in within the same time frame. So they're working through that right now. And there's maybe about 15 or so residents, I believe, that were impacted with either carpeting or laminate flooring that will need to be taken out and replaced. So I got 2 questions. I'll go here real quick.
Okay, I have 2 questions. How were we supposed to know the blue team from the insurance carrier? If you know who
Sure. So the first question, how do you know the difference between the blue team and the insurance carrier? So the blue team should have their blue B shirts, the B on their front. But I will tell you that the insurance carrier is not on site anymore in full force like they were. So they have kind of left the campus now. They've done all the work that they feel they needed to do in review. So anybody coming into your apartments now are going to be the blue team, not the carrier any longer, okay? For a while there, the carriers had on just like polo shirts. Some of them said YA, which is Young and Associates, and some of them said, I think it was EFI Global or EFI. That was the moisture mapping company that was kind of just checking for moisture in all the apartments.
Then the other question that I had is on the second floor, it seems like we have a lot of ceiling tile that's out. Is that going to stay out until renovation time? Are they going to put something up so that we look like we're not in a...
Sure. So the second floor, so there's ceiling tiles out on the second floor. Is that because we're bleeding lines still, or is that because of damage maybe? Brent has all the answers. So
it's multiple issues. There are tiles down on all of the floors. It's not just the second. Part of that is the blue team. Part of that is the construction. And all of the tiles are eventually going to be replaced with the new construction. So if they're out right now, we haven't been worrying about them until we can get the new construction up and going. That's how I look.
Okay, so we'll work through that. I know in our west building we have some where we're still bleeding lines and we're in there like 2 and 3 times a day trying to get some of the air out of the lines. We had a lot of mechanical challenges, obviously, with the storm afterwards with our chillers and our cooling towers. And so there was a lot of vendors here, a lot of work that was being done on those systems. And so there's definitely a lot of mechanical piping and things like that up in those ceilings. So we'll take a look at those, and as soon as we know we can get those ceiling tiles back in, we'll get those back in. And I know I want it to look and feel as normal as possible. So we're not going to wait for renovation to get those back in. We'll get them in them getting down to that floor. So I had one over here, and then I'll come back to you in a second, Libby. Yeah.
Porches or the lanais, we have carpeting down on ours, and I understand that carpeting is no longer an option with LCS. And so ours got torn up with the vinyls blowing around and snagging and things. Are we going to be given a choice of what to replace that with, or?
So the question was, they have carpeting on their lanai. It was damaged with the storm. Will they have the option to go back to carpeting, or will they get a different, option only available? I don't know the answer on the carpeting yet, so let me find that out, because I know we don't do that as a standard anymore, just because it can hold moisture and mold and things like that. So we've been doing more hard surfaces, tile and or like the brick paver type stuff, things like that. So let me find out. I don't know that answer right now, whether we'll be able to go back and do that indoor-outdoor carpet. Do you have a preference? Would you like to stick with the carpet, or would you like to go to a solid surface?
We'd love to put down a solid surface.
Okay, so I believe that, I know for certain that we will be offering our standards today. So when we go back to put it in, it will be based on our standard, okay? So you will have a choice for our standard, which would be tile in those lanais, okay? If you had carpeting, the tile. But I don't know if somebody did have carpeting and they want to keep the carpeting, whether we can do that. I will find that out.
Are the lanai cages going to be replaced on all the upper floors, or how's that working?
So the lanai cages will be replaced only if they were damaged. That's my understanding right now, unless the engineers come back and say that there's proof that there's damage that's not visible damage, and that we haven't gotten that full report back yet. But it will be if it's a damaged lanai, like if there's any structural damage to it. If it's just the vinyls that were torn, they'll replace the vinyls. If it was a structural issue, they will come back and repair or replace the structural damage to the lanai.
Well, in our line in particular, the guy came and looked, and he said, you can see they've drilled 3 or 4 holes here and only put in a screw over here. They were searching, and he said, he didn't look at the rest of it, but it was obviously, he said, this is very haphazard installation. And also our vinyls all blew in, which the pins were bent and broken when I put them back up.
Yep.
So would those be replaced?
Yeah, so anything that was broken, damaged, not functioning properly will get replaced. The challenge is going to be is if there was partial damage to a lanai, The big question remains whether they can find the true replacement for those and replace them, or whether they have to replace the whole and eye with the newer standard of what they're going to put in. So there's still some conversations being held right now about what's going back. That's what this architect and engineering company is going to be working on for us, and coming up with, sort of the game plan going forward. Yeah. Libby, I think, had a question. Oh, you got it answered. Another question, Beverly, do you have one?
How did you find out about the blue team in the first place? They've been wonderful.
Okay, so the question is, how did we find out about the blue team? Where did all the Smurfs come from, right? No, let's see, is Scott still out here? Where's the Papa Smurf? So the blue team,
You're good.
they're awesome folks, great company. So our owners, Health Peak, and then LCS is our management company, but Health Peak has worked with the blue team for many years, and they basically say you have to use the blue team for any type of disaster. So they automatically tell us your first call is the blue team. Don't call any other vendors. We get vendors knocking on our doors all the time, especially after the storm. We had insurance companies and refurb companies and roofers, and everybody was here trying to get in to this business. But we were very fortunate that Health Peak has this long-standing relationship with the blue team. And the blue team, because Health Peak is such a big property owner across the nation, they have a very good partnership. And so they were wonderful during the storm. Actually, the day the storm was coming through, it was probably early afternoon, maybe 2 o'clock or so, is when I realized that we were under some significant damage already, and that we saw a lot more still coming our way. And so I reached out to our corporate contacts about damage and things like that, and they said, well, we're going to put you in touch with the blue team right away. And probably within about 15 minutes or so, I was on the phone with the blue team talking to them, and they said they were staged in Lakeland and ready to go to wherever they needed to be dispatched to. So they showed up the next morning. It was maybe 8:30, something like that, 8:30, 9 o'clock. The first blue team truck rolled onto our campus, and it was just, it's been history since then. So, and they've been a wonderful partner. They have worked very well. Yes, thank you. And I'll share that with them. I know we do have challenges, obviously, with the blue team. I know there's some language barrier there sometimes, and that's hard. I understand that. That is a challenge, but it's the labor that they're able to obtain and get in here quickly and work through that. So I appreciate everybody's patience. And if you do have any challenges, please let me know. But they have been a great partner with us so far. So I appreciate that. Yes, Nadia?
What are the fire doors? Are they to our apartments or there's another door?
Sure. So good question. What are the fire doors? So she was asking, is it the...
The groups that are going to be coming in to do a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of people moving around, a lot of groups coming in. I know they're supposed to have a Southport Square representative with them. Now, I take it the blue team doesn't have a key to my apartment, but the Southport Square agent will be able to let them in. Are they going to stay there while they perform their work? Or are they just letting them in and then they're going to go after it?
Yeah, so, what's that? Oh yeah, here, Brian, you want to speak to that?
Ideally, we want to have everybody, a representative, stay with those people throughout the day. That is ideal. However, due to shortness of staff, we don't always have somebody who can stay with them throughout the day. We go and help them open the doors as needed. That's all I can say there, sorry.
So what's happening right now is that as those teams are coming in, so we could have on any given floor, 5 or 6 teams from the blue team that are working in those apartments. We are unlocking those apartments for them. We're trying to stay in those areas, but they're going to be doing that work in the apartment. If you have a concern about them being in the apartment working and you don't want them there while you're there, please make sure you have a note or something on your door. We will make sure we respect that and make sure that somebody is with them, either a blue team supervisor, manager, or one of our team when they come. But our goal is that, we want them to get in and get that work completed. We also want to protect your safety and your valuables as well. So, yeah.
I would presume they're all bonded and insured anyway, aren't
They are. And so, they are their company, obviously, they carry all their liability insurance. They are bonded, they're insured. We have challenges with staff that we, have done background checks on periodically, right? So as much as we do want to make sure we have safety, security, and all of that on our campus, there's still a risk out there at any point in time. We want you to, feel safe, and we want your belongings to be safe. So if you have any concerns about that, please let us know. We want to address that. But we also want to make sure we can get some of this work done, as quick as possible. So if you do have concerns, please touch base with me again, myself, Patrick, Angela. We'll make sure that we've got somebody there during that time. Some of you I know have safes in your apartment that you can maybe lock valuables in, jewelry, things like that. If you want to do that on those days, that's a wonderful way to just kind of protect some of those valuables in your apartment. But I know we're working with them when we go to those apartments, but we are not in those apartments the whole time they're there working right now. Yes, Libby.
Is it possible that when they're there at the door, they knock and wait a couple of minutes before they barge in?
Sure, yes.
That has happened to me is I heard a knock, and then they're in there immediately.
Okay, I'll address that with too quickly. They were knocking and coming right in after that knock. I will make sure I address that not only with our team, but with the blue team as well, because that should be occurring all the time where we're knocking and waiting for responses before we enter an apartment, and knocking multiple times before we come in. So thank you for the feedback, Libby.
Not to add to your workload, but in the heavy rain that we had the other night, the gutters on the walkway over to the center have trash in them.
Yeah, so we have a couple of other areas that we're still working on. There's a lot of debris that piled up around our campus in a lot of different locations. So we've cleaned up all the easy stuff on the grounds, but we still have a couple of areas that we're working on. Gutters is one of them that we have to get cleaned out again. We also have a company coming in, and they're actually going to they're doing some type of like a water jet something or other that they're going to clean out all of the culverts and the drainage on our campus, because we have a lot of debris that clogged up those drains. And if we get another heavy rain, it's not going to drain on our campus properly. So they're coming to do that. They also are coming to pump out some of our fountains, the reflection ponds in here where we have these little fountains that have not been running since the storm. The reason those aren't running is because we just have so much debris in the bottom of those, and if we turn those on, it's just going to suck up all that debris. So the company's coming to suck all of that stuff out, pump it all out. We're going to clean out all the goop in the bottom, for a lack of a better term. Does anybody know the proper term for that? Debris, goop, debris, But we'll get that stuff, taken out of there, and then we'll get those fountains refilled and turned back on so that we can, see those fountains running again. But yeah, we've got a couple of areas for sure to still address across the campus.
The car sheds, a lot of that aluminum came off and damaged the cars.
Yep.
Now, some of it is still up there, just hanging there. Is that going to be removed, or?
Yeah, so the question on the carports, the soffits underneath, all those metal or aluminum pieces. So the blue team did come around and try to take down anything that was dangling, that was going to fall, like that looked like it was in jeopardy of falling, just to get them kind of safe to get in and out of there. There are still some that are bent down, but they're still tacked up in there for now. They will be coming back to replace all of that. Again, that is also permitting because it's kind of like part of that roofing structure. So they'll be coming back to replace all of that stuff. It's just we don't have a time frame on that yet to get those soffits and actually replace them still. We tried to, just a note on that, we did try to get all of the lighting that we could back up and running in those carports. There are some areas where the lighting actually came down, so there might be a few that don't have lights right now. But there should be enough lighting in those carports to light up the parking lot at night for you from a safety standpoint. And if we did lose a couple of lights up there, we'll be replacing those as well when we do the soffits. Yeah.
Do we have a timeline on the fountains? They're beginning to get
We don't have a timeline on that, but I know they just sent the purchase order to the company to come and actually pump it out, to remove all of that stuff. And we were actually hoping it was going to be an easy process where we could actually just pump it to like one of our other lakes. And unfortunately, they have to actually bring a truck, pump it into the truck, and take it and dispose of it somewhere because they can't guarantee that that water is the same makeup or composition of the lake water. So it's a long process. I don't understand it like way up here for me. So I'm just, listening to what the insurance carrier and the experts are saying, but they're going to come and pump those out. I'm hopeful that we'll get that done within about a week's time here and get that addressed and resolved, because as that stuff breaks down in there, it will start to have that odor for sure.
Gutters all the way around the building, but I happen to notice on the dining room, the gutters that are going out almost towards the walkway, they have been damaged, so I don't know if somebody has noted that.
Okay, I'll make sure that they have that.
Walkways,
Yeah.
they're off. As of Tuesday, the only lights that work are the ones right out in front of this G exit. All the rest of them are completely off.
Yeah, so I know that just came up to maintenance, especially with some of the time change coming up. So we want to make sure the timers are reset, so they're going to work through that and make sure we get those reset. I think it's just a timer issue of when they kick on and off right now. So we're working on that one.
Done.
Thank you.
Are you sure?
Hey, Dorothy, yes.
Question was brought up to me about Christmas decorations. Should we plan to just ignore that this year?
Yeah. So Christmas decor, I don't want to be a Grinch, so please don't throw the rotten eggs yet. But we're going to have to minimalize what we do from a holiday decor on all of the floors this year, just because of the renovations. And our goal was try to have all of that stuff done pre the holidays, and unfortunately now it's not going to happen. So we will work with our team here to do our normal decor in the lobby. Hopefully we'll be able to do that with the renovation still going on, and probably in the dining room area, whatever our dining room setup will be, because we want to make sure that we do have some Christmas cheer spread here as well, or holiday cheer. But there is going to be limits as to what we can do in each area. It will depend a lot on the schedule of what's going to be completed or not complete by the time the holiday rolls around. I'm also very concerned about the front entrance because, we've always kind of wrapped those trees, and we don't have trees to wrap out there right now. So you might just see some strip lighting laying on the ground out there. No, I'm kidding. We'll do something better than that. But we will be working on our village area and getting that decorated, and depending on how quick those trees come back in and some of the different places, we'll work on some decor, but it will definitely look a little different this year at Christmas time or the holidays. So, yes.
When we have a fire alarm, could you let us know when it's over?
Yes. So the question: when we have a fire alarm, could we let you know when it's over? Yes. So we had, I think, probably what you're referencing is one in the middle of the night one time, and it went off for a period of time, and then there was no all clear announced.
This is the one that just happened a couple days ago.
Oh, it did.
Yeah, that's Steve.
Next time I see Steve, I'll just make sure. So we should always have an all clear whenever the fire alarm is complete, and I'll make sure we get that addressed with the desk and make sure that that actually occurs after a fire alarm.
I was on the elevator right after that, and there's a woman that just moved in the day before, and she said, "What was that noise?"
Sure.
They should
Sure.
notify the new people.
Yep, okay, yeah, thank you.
And Dawn is very clear. When she makes the announcement, for me, I understand her. I don't know if that's everybody with
Sure.
your aids.
That's because I have a big mouth.
You enunciate.
I enunciate.
All right, any other questions? All right, looking pretty good. Oh, yeah.
Our little air conditioner vents all over the place leak. They
Condensation?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Somebody thought the dog had whittled over there, but it was just the air conditioner.
Okay.
And it's
Yeah.
on all the floors.
Sure, so we'll look and see if there's anything we can do. I know with the chilled water lines that come in the building, depending on how cold that water is coming in and what the AC is going through the buildings, that can leave some condensation. We'll see what we can do to maybe clean that up a little bit more. I don't know if there's a good solution to it or not. I'll have to ask the experts on that.
Maybe they can put a drip pan on it.
Yeah, right, that might work. Yeah.
Right, right.
My car was totally destroyed in the flood. The engine was underwater. Do we know how many cars that affected, or was it just mine?
I don't know. We haven't had anybody come back with full. We've had. I've heard from some residents as well as myself scratches. We've had a couple that have had like little dings or bangs from things that blew into it. We've had a couple of folks that have said some flooding had occurred. I don't know the count of how many that was that happened to. I know my car was scratched all the way around, like the whole thing had scratches everywhere. So I apparently have to get a whole new paint job, is what they're saying. So we'll be working through those. I know if you haven't reached out, if you do have damages, the insurance carriers, go back to your auto insurance carrier. All that storm-related damages. They have a couple of adjuster tents set up all over Port Charlotte, so depending on who your carrier is, there's places that you can go that's like a drive-through. I mean, it's literally a drive-through. I drove up, it was like, I'll take fries with that, please. And then it was pretty nice. But no, you drive in, they kind of have adjusters running around, they check it all out, and they'll give you your estimate or quote. I also know that if your car is drivable, it's going to be several months before you get it repaired. If it's not drivable, they're getting them in a little bit faster because mine is not. I scheduled it a couple of weeks ago, and I won't be in until like mid-February or something like that. So,
Just as a matter of interest, my car was 5 years old. I only had 12,000 miles on it. The insurance company gave me $3,000 less than I paid for it 5 years ago.
oh wow,
Nice.
Holy mackerel. Yeah, incredible. Yeah. All right. I have another question back there. Yes.
Okay, I know that, I wanted to see if anybody else had this kind of problem. I had a sweep put on my door, you got my lights from outside.
All about auto.
Auto is the name of the place.
Okay, so Barbara's saying All About Auto is a good car place
What's
to
the
go
name of
because
it?
they were able
All
to get their
About
stuff done
Auto.
quickly. So I'll see if I had to use one of the preferred vendors by my carrier, so I'll see if that's on their listing. So thank you. Norma.
Thanks for getting us back into the dining room.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Again, a big shout out to the Blue Team because I gave that as a priority focus to try to get that done. We actually thought we were going to be able to get them open sooner. Unfortunately, there was some additional work in West they had to do that was up in the ceilings, and they had to use scaffolding and all this. It was a pretty intricate deal. And I know this weekend they're setting up some more scaffolding for the front entrance of Gables West. So if you happen to be over there this weekend, you're going to see that desk is all moved over, and they're going to have stuff going all the way up to the 3rd or 4th floor, I guess, in that area. So.
Laura was saying that people are not returning their greenware.
Oh, the
There should
recycling?
be
Yes.
a greenware
Okay.
tub,
Yeah.
bin on every floor. And I found mine was being used in a different way and got it back and put a sign on it.
Okay.
But the residents need to return their greenware, it's expensive.
Sure. So the comment was the green clamshells that you put your food in, they put your food in, those are recyclable, meaning not recyclable in the trash, but recyclable in dining. They rewash them and reuse them. Reusable, yes. Reduce, reuse, recycle, right? Is that what they said? Reusable. So if you get those green, the green plastic ones, they run those through. Those are actually rated by the manufacturer for so many washes, and we run those through our normal wash cycle with our dishes, which has the sterilizing agent and the heat and everything. So those are reusable, and please make sure you're returning those into those bins so that we can reuse them. They're quite expensive to buy them, and the reason we're using that, I'll tell you, that kind of started during COVID because you just couldn't find the styrofoam and the plastic containers that were disposable because of all the people that went to takeout at restaurants and everywhere else. And so it's really hard to get them. And so we found that the reusables, we could get them. They're a lot more expensive, but we don't have to buy as much, and we can actually get them in the quantity that we needed. So we started using those, and it's still a challenge today with those styrofoam and plastic containers, just keeping up with the production, because a lot of people, even with restaurants, are still doing a lot of takeout and not eating in restaurants as much as they were pre-pandemic. So, yes.
Is it true that we're gonna have to wait several months before windows are replaced? Like my window blew out in my apartment.
So, I don't know the answer exactly yet. I don't know how long it's going to be for the windows. The question was, is it going to be a few months or several months before the windows can be replaced? I don't know exactly how long it's going to be. It is also a county permitting, but the permitting is different for each of the different components. So it all depends on how long that window permitting might take place. The Blue Team is working on kind of getting some updates for us as far as estimated timeframes, and they are working with the counties on the submission of replacement and the permitting process. So we'll have a little bit more information, hopefully within the next week to 2 weeks, of what that time frame looks like for us.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Yes, Dolly.
Real quick with the lighting in the village, when I came home from bingo the other night at 8 o'clock, there was no lights.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll make sure we get that addressed. Yeah. Yes, Rodney.
Recently, I've heard comments about gnats being around on the 5th floor, flying around.
Okay.
Nancy blames me for bringing them in, but.
Okay. Gnats. Okay. Okay. We'll make a note. So the comment was that there was some gnats on the 5th floor flying around. I don't know if that could be from some of the areas that were dried in, that maybe there's some cracks or gaps that they're getting in, but we'll see if we can address that either through our pest control company or with the Blue Team and making sure it's sealed up there.